Hey guys, I'm Rich from NeoWin. Today we're unboxing the Surface Book 3. So, this was announced last month, and it's obviously the successor of the Surface Book 2, and it looks exactly the same. Honestly, not much has changed except for the internals. They bumped up the power this time. Now, this is a 13.5-inch model. That's about all I know about it. Microsoft doesn't really tell me what they're sending me, so I kind of want to get this out of the box to take a look. But they did make some significant changes, I'm going to say, and they decided to go with Intel's Ice Lake processors. So, if you're unfamiliar with Intel's 10th generation lineup, there's Ice Lake and Comet Lake. Comet Lake is 14 nanometers still, which Intel was stuck at for years. And honestly, from what I understand, the only reason it exists is because they had such a hard time getting to 10 nanometer that there was a shortage of Ice Lake processors. So, as I just implied, Ice Lake is 10 nanometers. Now, they also had to lower the clock speed to get to 10 nanometers, so the CPU itself isn't quite as powerful as Comet Lake. But they made up for that by using Iris Plus graphics, the new Gen 11 graphics on Ice Lake. So you get a lot more graphics power from Ice Lake. You get more CPU power from Comet Lake. So I had assumed that, or I felt like Comet Lake would make more sense in a product like this. Okay. We have a nice box in here. I thought it wasn't. I heard that some people were getting the business model, so I thought this was just going to be like just a unit in a cardboard box. But that's cool. Now, back to what I was saying about Ice Lake and Comet Lake. I thought Comet Lake would make more sense in a product like this because it has a dedicated GPU, so it doesn't benefit as much from the Iris Plus graphics. Now, they did use Iris Plus in Surface Pro and Surface Laptop, so I get what they're doing. Like, obviously, they're ordering more of the same parts. What does make sense, though, is when the screen is detached. Remember, with a Surface Book, up in the display here is most of your internals. I'm trying to point at it. I'm not looking. Anyway, is most of the internals. The CPU, the storage, the memory, all that good stuff is in the display. The GPU and one of the two batteries is in the base. So, when you pull the display off, you lose the dedicated GPU power, which means that the Iris Plus graphics absolutely makes a difference if you detach that display. So I'm assuming that they didn't make this decision just because it would be cheaper to order more of the same parts, just order them in bulk. I would like to think that they have some analytics that show that people are detaching their display enough to actually make use of the Iris Plus graphics, because otherwise they totally should have used Comet Lake. So, looks like the model they sent me, it's on here. Yeah, this does come with Windows 10 Home. This is definitely the consumer model. Core i7, which is a Core i7 1065 G7. That is, at this point, it's actually the only Ice Lake Core i7. There was supposed to be a 28 watt model, but that was, I think that's limited to Apple at this point. Would have been cool if it was called the Core i7 1068 G7. Would have been cool to see that in a Surface Book, but not happening. It's a regular 15 watt part, quad core. We also got 512 gigabyte SSD and NVIDIA GeForce GTX 1650 with 4 gigabytes, and it just says 4 gigabytes GPU, but what they're not saying is that it's actually GDDR5, which is a shame because if you get the 15-inch model, that is GDDR6, and just like last year, the 15-inch model is much more powerful in the GPU department, and they could have used a GDDR6 1650. They didn't. The 15-inch model also comes, if you get the business model, you can get Quadro RTX graphics. That's the only way to get RTX graphics on a Surface Book so far. So a lot of people were hoping that they'd use like an RTX 2060 or something. They did not. They stuck with a 1650 and a 1660 Ti in the 15-inch. So here we have it. Now, if I just pull this out, we can see it has not changed. If you look on Microsoft's website, the dimensions are the same. The chassis is the same. Everything is the same. Oh, this goes inside here. All right. All right, so here you have it. You can see we still have that gap in the hinge, which makes it a fairly thick device. But yeah, it's there, and that just helps. Honestly, I found this to never be a very lappable device. This is, by the way, this is as far as the screen goes back, and I found when using it, it's a little too. I find that I end up holding it down with my palms while I'm typing. So I am hoping that the weight got redistributed a bit. This is the third generation Surface product. Third generation Surface products is usually where it actually matures, and I'd really like to see that from here. But they focused on power a lot, and so that tells me that the Surface team thinks of maturity for this product as powerful, because this is supposed to be the powerful Surface product. Okay. In here we probably just have some paperwork, Surface Book 3, yeah, that's fine. All right. And in here we're going to have a charger. It does not come with a pen, and I'm kind of surprised, but Microsoft did not send me a pen. That's okay, though. I do have a pen. 102 watt charger, okay? That is worth remembering, because you will not get this kind of charging out of USB Type-C. You can absolutely use this USB Type-C port to charge. You can use your regular 65 watt charger, but it will charge much slower than this 102 watt charger. Remember, USB-C charging only goes up to like 100 watts. So you're not going to, you just won't be able to find a USB-C charger that charges as fast as the Surface Connect cable. All right, as always, I went and grabbed a Surface Pen. As always, we have a very clean design from Microsoft. Machine magnesium. It's yeah, the platinum design. This is the only color it comes in. This is the only one, I believe, that doesn't come in black at this point. So we open it up. Solid keyboard, right? No, nothing here has changed. Okay, there is a solid keyboard. At the top, we have. I've never liked this placement, but we have the power button and volume rocker on top here. Okay. And then, you know, it's all pretty standard stuff. You can see how the hinge kind of flattens out here. Over here, we've got two USB Type A ports. These should be USB 3.1 Gen 2. We have an SD card slot. Over here, we've got, of course, Surface Connect and USB 3.1 Gen 2 Type C. All right, Windows is just finishing setting up here. There's really not much to say about the body of the device itself, because none of this is new. This is the exact same chassis that we've seen in previous generations of the Surface Book. At the top of the screen, we do have a Windows Hello IR camera. That's something that Microsoft has been using in all of its products since Surface Pro 4 and original Surface Book. But back when Windows 10 was first a thing, it was almost, these were like the hero devices. And the only thing that has changed about the chassis is the USB Type-C port. This used to be over here. This, and with the original Surface Book, that used to be a display port or mini display port, and the base has changed slightly because they had that performance base for a little while, and that's it. Like I said, this is the 13.5 inch model. With the Surface Book 2, they added a 15 inch model. And honestly, I feel like that's the better choice if you can. It's pricier, but it's also much more powerful. And also, I love the 15 inch screen at 3x2 on the Surface laptop. I love it. The other thing is, this is a very powerful machine. If you're not, it's fairly powerful. It's got a dedicated GPU. Compared to other Surfaces, it's powerful. I don't think they've ever done the 13.5 inch model justice with the GPUs that they've chosen, but that's neither here nor there. If this isn't what you're looking for, and the big selling point is going to be detaching the display, which might work. Right, detaching the display. So you could press this button on the keyboard and it takes a couple seconds, but you hear that click and it just comes off. Or that's also going to be in the taskbar there. So if you have a problem with the keyboard, which happens, by the way, sometimes it's a connectivity issue, you can use the screen. and that gets the job done. So if you don't care about this and you don't care about the dedicated GPU, just get a Surface laptop. It's the same, it's 13.5 inches or 15 inches, and it's meant to be thinner, lighter, but just obviously not as powerful and not meant to be used as a tablet. So if we take a look at the tablet here, that's why I don't really get the placement of the power button or the volume rocker, because it's all the way over here. If you hold it like this, it's on top, which doesn't make sense. If you hold it like this, it's all the way up here. If you hold it like this, it's all the way on the bottom. Now, other things that I wish had changed, 3.5 millimeter headphone jack right over here. It is not optimal because remember, if you're using it like so, your headphone wire is coming down the side and it gets in the way. It's actually quite annoying, and it's a shame that they haven't changed the placement of that headphone jack just yet. Also on the bottom here, you can see we have several ports on the bottom of the tablet. Now, why? Well, obviously to connect to the keyboard. You could also charge through here. This is a regular Surface Connect port. So that means you could use the charger that came with this, and you could just charge up the tablet if you want. You don't have to attach it to the base and use the charger on the side. That's a regular Surface Connect male part. It's the same thing. So that might be an issue with adding Thunderbolt, by the way, because Thunderbolt needs 40 gigabits per second data transfer speeds. These the Surface Connect is USB 3.1 Gen 2. It used to be Gen 1, but now it should be 10 gigabits per second. So I don't know how much bandwidth these two sides add, but it could be a bottleneck and might be the issue for adding Thunderbolt, because remember, all the guts of the PC are in here. The other thing that I'll show you, by the way, I noted that this is as far as it goes back, but it's not made to really... It's not made to go back because... See, it takes a few seconds. What we could do is we could just turn it around and boom. Now suddenly we can use it in other form factors like so, or we can use it in tablet mode. Now if you use it in tablet mode like this, now suddenly I have the full power of the GPU. Again, while this does get you the full power of the GPU, your GPU option for the 13-inch model still isn't a great one. I mean, let's look at it. First of all, this is a 13.5-inch PC. Now, when you look at 13-inch PCs, your options for dedicated GPUs are slim. Okay, there's not a whole lot. You might find some stuff in 14-inch PCs, definitely a bunch in 15-inch PCs. And that's because this stuff takes up more space, and that's also why the 15-inch Surface Book 3 has a much more powerful GPU, and so did the 15-inch Surface Book 2. Now, it almost makes me wonder why this exists. I know there's a market for it. I know people like it. That's why I don't bash it, but it's like this for the Surface laptop, which, by the way, same size screens, right? I like the 15-inch so much more because... Remember, I mean, when I'm typing, I like to have two apps side by side. You know, I'm working from this window and I'm reading off of this window, something like that. Now, that's why I've always liked 16 by 9 screens, because the wider makes it work better with two columns. But if you're going to make the screen taller, then you can't make it narrower. You know what I mean? So 13.5 at 3x2 is a narrower screen than a 13.3 inch screen at 16 by 9. It's a bigger screen overall. In fact, this is a bigger screen at 13.5 inches than a 14 inch 16 by 9 screen. Now that's going by surface area. Obviously, screens are measured diagonally, which is why when you start changing aspect ratios, that diagonal measurement doesn't quite mean the same thing depending on what you care about. So that's why I like the 15-inch screen so much more, because it's wide enough to actually work the way that I want it to work, where I would normally use like a 14-inch laptop. But again, to each his own. I know there's a market for it because people love the 13.5-inch Surface Book and the 13.5-inch Surface laptop. I just think that for me, The 15-inch model is the sweet spot. Anyway, guys, I'll have more on this in a few weeks, so stay tuned for that. I'm Rich from Neo, and have a great night.